Wyald is a Berserk villain banned from everything but the manga he's in. Despite having 3 anime adaptations, Wyald does not appear once in the Berserk anime. His only mentionable appearance outside of the manga is in the Berserk Musou game. Just why? Well, the truth is, Wyald is absolutely nothing short of an absolutely vile evil villain. Not only does he bring extreme violence like this, yes, he did this, those censor spots are dead people on his weapons. But he also takes pleasure in the most uncomfortable scenes. Like this one. You can guess what that thing is. Yet despite it all, even if disturbing, Wyald has a very important purpose to the story he's in. Yes, this weird demon has a purpose. So much so that it'll probably shock you and you'll be surprised at how they excluded him from Berserk in its entirety. This video is a direct follow-up to my grand video about Berserk's Golden Age. While this video will focus exclusively on Wyald, the most outlandish character from that arc, that video explains the entire arc. But without further ado, let's begin with some context of when Wyald appears. Wyald is introduced at a pivotal point in Berserk's story. Shortly before, our main character Guts had left the Band of the Hawk, a mercenary group so strong, it was added to Midland's army force, the strongest kingdom in all of the lands. Though, Guts' departure caused a mental break for Griffith, the shining, bright leader of this group, leading him to commit treason and in turn get tortured deep underneath the castle. Guts had come back a year later to the aftermath of everything, the group marginally shrunk, tired, and continuously on the run, yet very deep into planning Griffith's escape. Now it's very important to note who they think Griffith is. This man, the White Hawk, is regarded as a hero by everyone. And well, his image sells that. This angelic white appearance, his graceful actions, and numerous calming facial expressions really sell that like he's this good grand person. All this combined with his strong planning and mighty leadership, his followers gladly chase him through anything. They believe, quote, those who figure as long as they stick with Griffith, they'll get to see great things. And so they break Griffith out thinking he'll be the exact same, the one who will yet again lead them to greatness. Yet you and I can take one look at the Griffith they find and see that that's just impossible. This is all to put into perspective the situation they're in. Our cast of characters are not only less in numbers, very tired of being on the run, but in total denial about their harsh situation as Wyald is sent to hunt them. We're finally introduced to our big baddie as the King of Midland summons him to chase the escaped Griffith. And seeing him, yeah, this is his first ever appearance. There is not one page for Wyald before this. Introduced with a dozen women on top of him, he receives his orders, proceeding to choke one of the women out as he stands up and reveals his face. He already has a kill before we even see what he looks like. But one look at Wyald and he's nothing short of uncanny. You already know this man won't just be another opponent. We're sent straight into his backstory of how he became a knight under the king. That during a tough time of war, the king was even willing to use horrible prisoners as soldiers. And Wyald was one of many competing for leadership. To gain the title, him and another would duel. Yet Wyald asked for no weapon and insisted on keeping his cuffs on his arms, saying that in order to be a leader, he'll need to show a sense of charisma through overwhelming power. His opponent was not only larger than him, but willing to use a weapon himself. And as his opponent struck, in a single instant he was impaled upon the castle tower, without a doubt dead. Wyald appeared as nothing short of a monster, indeed creating a show of charisma, a charisma of fear. It's a terrifying, unexplainable feat for someone we already know is bound to be some sort of monster. It's to say, if you weren't sure before, you'd be dumb to not see it now. Wyald was deemed leader of the new formed Black Dog Knights, a strong, highly accomplished group, so much so that they rivaled the Hawk, yet their insane cruelness set them apart. They did every horrible thing you can imagine, so much so that even the King of Midland was terrified of them. The Hawk is leading the weakened Griffith away from the kingdom when Wyald makes a visit to the horse stable they were just at. He rocks up to ask about the Hawk, now donning his battle gear, which I gotta add features the fur and skin of what appears to be a small dog. Wyald then shows his real reasons as to why he's visited the stable, as he takes to killing the men, throwing the children into the fire, and assaulting the women, taking great pleasure in it all. Before his backstory, it was a show of power. Of course, he was fierce and demonic to show a strong foe is heading after our cast. But right here, it's made clear that he also enjoys it, revels in it, and loves the pain he inflicts. He lives for this disgusting stuff. He states his motto is literally, make it fun, make it stimulating. He's just gross. But it gets even worse as he rides after the Hawk with the bodies attached to his weapons, spearing their dismembered remains on spears, an act that leaves me with nothing to say. I just can't believe it. I'm sure it's meant to leave readers with this same impression too. How do you even describe this? Guts is then forced to clash with the knights to buy the Hawk some time, clashing his sword to learn Wyald's forces are driven by fear. Fear of Wyald himself. The second he realizes this, he finds himself in battle against the monster, bringing his sword down for Wyald to catch it with his bare hand. Guts is saved here thankfully, but from that single encounter he could sense nothing but unsettling bloodlust. It's not normal, and him looking back at Wyald's face? Stuff of nightmares. Not only was his sword effortlessly stopped, but Guts knows this feeling. He connects it to the otherworldly beings he's previously encountered, quickly realizing Wyald is the same, some sort of demon. In this moment, he looks nothing short of terrified, and I don't blame him. The Hawk continue to run as Wyald is faced with numerous set traps, continuing to make it through them with a smile on his face, having fun as he taunts them time and time again. Here, like Guts had said, his men driven by fear begin to get scared, and in response he crushes one of their heads like a grape. He just sits there afterwards and states that if they worry about living and dying, it'll equate to wasting their life away. Wyald's knights continue to ride after the Hawk till they're ambushed by the rest of the group. Yet even then, Wyald is simply smiling and excited to get the full taste of them. Him and Guts continue their battle from before, it actually looking even till you realize Wyald has been fighting with the log this entire time. Even worse, both Casca and Guts realize Wyald hasn't even been putting in effort. The battle has all been his reflexes. Guts finally does get the chance to strike, but the monster just catches his sword with his jaw, holding Guts' sword with his teeth as he punches his horse to death. He's becoming less human by the moment, if he ever even was one. Especially so as Wyald continues to have the time of his life. With the battle continuing, he keeps making this seem like a meal to him. First he caught Guts' sword with his teeth, and now he's saying Guts is tasty, stating he might even eat everything here. Obviously he's not hungry, rather it's a clear and super apparent attempt to write him as a gluttonous character. Not for food, but he's greedy for bloodshed, destruction, and these dark desires that he seeks. All to illustrate that these horrible things he's doing, he enjoys them very much so, to the point of greed. It's at this point his men, all driven by fear if you recall, begin to grovel and run away from the fight. But Wyald simply doesn't care for their deep desire to live. He calls this battle a festival as he breaks down a tree and swings it towards his men. Yes, he's just holding the tree in his arms as if it's normal and just killing them for not enjoying this quote, fun. It gets even crazier, somehow it keeps getting crazier, as he steps to Guts, smiles, and quote, starts this party himself. He then shifts, distorts, and completely transforms into a creature beyond imagination. Wyald brandishes his demonic apostle state. The form is reminiscent of something like a yeti, a monstrous creature with impossible proportions. His uncanny features like his jaw and eyes accentuated even more as they grow in size. He now has 3 huge beady eyes and a jaw encompassing his entire chest. And at the top is Wyald himself, showing his human form in his demonic form almost to remind us that it's him still. While before Wyald was a wolf in sheep's clothing, a demon in the skin of a human, he now fully becomes that monster he always was. Guts is stricken by fear. Wyald is exactly as he thought, and as he assumed, he begins to ramp up his spree of destruction. He picks up an entire tree with no effort, swinging it to throw Guts to the other side of the forest. Then walking up to Casca shaken with fear and fallen, planning to do beyond horrible things. Before he's faced with a volley of arrows. These of course do nothing, him swinging the tree around to kill dozens at once, then picking them up and consuming them in his monstrous jaw. By now, Casca has ran over to Guts trying to wake her lover up, failing to do so as Wyald approaches. He picks her up while muttering absolutely vile things, then undressing her before opening his mouth to reveal his thing. God, I hate this. Not only does he do this to everyone in his human form, he's willing to somehow make the worst possible thing worse by doing it as a demon. Just reading this is insanely hard, and quite frankly, I can't see why this needed to be in the manga. He even goes as far to look down on Guts while stating he'll make her forget about all her past men, planning to do every absolutely horrible vile thing to her before. Yeah, thankfully Guts chops that horrid thing right off. Enraged at the audacity of the demon to mess with his lover, Guts takes to chopping his arm off too, and though his body is broken, even Wyald's war cry being enough to blow him away, Guts is set on not backing down. He runs up under Wyald's arm, striking him directly in the mouth, before dodging a counterattack and slicing the demon's leg up, knocking down a creature 10 times his size. Guts wastes no time jumping on him and attempting a finisher. Yet Wyald isn't another one of Guts' foes. He can't forget this is a demon. Wyald grabs Guts instantly, shaking him to the bone before throwing him as hard as he can through the forest. He then jumps on him, smacks him again, before leaving him unconscious on a tree branch. Guts is starting to think that this is an impossible battle, but after a flashback he regains his resolve just in time to awaken and narrowly avoid death. He cuts up one of Wyald's eyes as he's forced to play defense while thinking of ways to win. And upon viewing a dead knight, Guts has got something. Hiding out, near death, and his sword basically broken, Guts has managed to come up with a shaky plan. Yet this is it. This will be his one and only chance to win. It's all over if he fails. He and everyone else will die. Wyald finds Guts, smashing the tree to the side as he finds a soldier. He falls for the diversion, laughing, thinking he's got it all figured out as he looks up to strike something falling, shattering it to reveal a suit of armor. Guts had used a diversion inside of a diversion to avoid Wyald, now falling from above the armor and breaking his sword on his hand before landing right next to the demon's neck. Guts then instantly takes the broken hilt and pushes it deep into the demon's skull, him yelling out in pain as he tries to pull Guts off himself. Yet Guts is taken to choking him out while braving the barrage of blows. It all ends as Wyald slams himself as hard as he can into a tree, sending Guts out cold and towards the floor, at the same time as Wyald. Somehow, just somehow, he managed to beat this monstrous demon. The band takes to rescuing and mending the wounded, leaving a seriously injured Guts with the fallen Griffith. Yet when things are beginning to seem a bit hopeful, the ground rumbles and Wyald reappears to take Griffith. In the background, he just barely survived and has been groveling in pain. He's desperate and not ready to die, which is very laughable considering he killed his own soldiers for wanting to live themselves. The horrible, vile, literal demon gets even worse. How surprising. Wyald reappears and takes Griffith, hoping for a way out. You see, up to this point, Griffith has been hailed as a hero, but he's also been surrounded by demonic prophecies stating his importance. Here, Wyald, knowing of these, is hoping Griffith summons the Great Ones as a way for him to live. If Griffith is going to be as great as they say, he should have the ability to save him too. The Hawk demand he drop Griffith, yet in response he laughs. Not only do they have no idea what their futures will look like, but they are completely wrong about their leader. He shows them everything Griffith has become and everything they've been trying to deny. He's broken, frail, and utterly hopeless. He's setting reality straight for everyone, yet his reality comes undone as another demon, Zod, lands right behind him. The same demon who is spitting those before mentioned prophecies has appeared to make sure they come true, picking up Wyald with little to no effort as he begs for his life and tries to reason with Zod. He states he was only following commandments that allow free will, and funny enough, Zod states that he's doing the same thing right now, before ripping Wyald into two pieces, throwing him away like trash as he flies away. All are left to look at Wyald's remains as they begin to shake and scramble, his remains morphing into numerous souls that begin to drag Wyald in on himself. To everyone's horror, the souls cast themselves into an otherworldly vortex, Wyald's demonic form going with them to reveal this. All along, that strong demon monster was the little old man. If you start talking about living and dying, you'll end up wasting your life away. This quote from Wyald, with the hindsight of what his human form is, creates a clear image of an old man who likely lived a boring or unfulfilled life. And while of course you can speculate about the details, what he did in that life doesn't really matter for his character. Like many of Berserk's demons, no matter how harsh the backstory, they're unforgivable no matter what. To compare and for better understanding, we can look at another Berserk demon, that being Rosine. Her backstory reflects her actions as a result of trauma, making them a childish reaction to her own pain. She's probably the easiest to feel for. You feel for her heavily, yet it's never enough to straight up forgive her actions. It's all just enough to understand them. In Wyald's case, he never gets this, and therefore it tells you there's nothing to understand. There's nothing there to make you feel for and consider forgiving this guy. Wyald simply being an unfulfilled old man and nothing more tells us everything we really need to know. Reflecting on that quote of his, it's everything Wyald would like to live by, the spirit not worried about death, living his life to the fullest. Yet Wyald himself, when faced with death and destruction, he reverted to his true self, a weak, willed old man begging for his life. He seemingly didn't live by this quote when he was human, and neither does he now. In Berserk, when becoming a demon, a person sacrifices their humanity to get a second chance at life, becoming a demon as a byproduct. Wyald is one of these demons who simply gave up their humanity for power, the power to become his sick version of being fulfilled, a life of bloodshed, fun, and horribly enough, taking as many women as he wants. Many of his lines suggest he's become gluttonous and greedy for these things he enjoyed, and here that was on full display. In all honesty, Wyald is probably the most demon-like demon in the series. It's all horrible, there's nothing good for him. Wyald, in simplest terms, got an insane amount of power and became greedy with that power. And ironically, it was that search for his greed that ended him. It was Wyald specifically going after Casca, choosing to torture Guts, and messing with Griffith at the end that led him to dying. He spent his second chance at life going after these things. It was inevitable that eventually he would find something he couldn't grasp. Now, while Wyald may be a rather simple character overall, his reasons to exist in Berserk's story are actually a lot more grand. Please don't get it twisted, I'm not going to get in here and tell you that Wyald isn't pure evil, quite the opposite actually. I'm going to tell you that Wyald is pure evil, and because he is, he's able to have such a big impact on Berserk. Wyald has a huge impact on us first and foremost, being a brutally honest showcase of what the world of demons looks like in Berserk beyond our narrow viewpoint. Up to now, every opponent has been human, with the only exception being yet another demon named Zod and the Skull Knight. But both were shown to be vastly different than what Wyald was. The thing is, while violent and grisly in his own way, Zod had created the allure that demons had their own reasons for what they do. He was honorable and acted with reason rather than pure malice. Skull Knight is another great example. He may be scary, demonic in presence, yet he came to guide Guts and nothing more. There is no chaos caused. Yet then you meet Wyald, him showing us the real truth, that those two, Skull Knight and Zod, they're insane exceptions within the demon exception. In reality, the average demon is scum like Wyald, gruesome, vile, and willing to commit evils as if it was the most normal thing. This has even more impact when the eclipse later happens, when our group is sucked into another world chock full of demons, dozens, hundreds, and probably thousands. In this moment when you see that, the connection is, they are quite literally surrounded by more than 1,000 Wylds. Our group is surrounded by thousands of demons who it took numerous lives, multiple scarring memories, and Guts almost dying multiple times just to bring down one, which they technically didn't even kill. Zod did. Wyald's spree, which had lasted for over a volume of manga, was for this very moment, a terrifying sum of everything we saw there, but on another unimaginable level. Wyald's impact isn't just felt by us though. The effects of his actions seriously push the story along. He's very much essential, so much so that you couldn't ignore it even if you wanted to. This all began because the Hawk wanted to save Griffith, their hero, yet throughout this part of the story they have yet to acknowledge what he's become. During the entirety of this demonic encounter, Griffith is forced to sit back and watch his men struggle against this monster, unable to do anything himself. It's a reminder to us and him that he's no longer that big hero. The only and last time they encountered a demon, he was able to rush in and help Guts fight. Though now he sits there powerless and is rather the one to be protected. The very long battle against this horrible monster allows it to set in how far Griffith has fallen, providing essential context and understanding for many of his later moments. With Wyald picking up Griffith and telling our cast everything they were trying to doubt, he puts the nail in the coffin for the group, all of them realizing after this battle that it's really over. He breaks the group so much that they sit in silence, everyone either speechless or struggling to put together their next moves. Guts himself is forced into a life-shattering realization that when he had left the Hawk a year ago, he had left something that'll never exist again. Casca is forced to state she can't follow Guts, her lover, despite us having a few moments to show how close they've become recently, all because they learned Griffith is in no state to be alone. Finally, through his speaks about Griffith being great and Zod's appearance, all the prophecy stuff, Guts, our main character, is told that it's only going to get worse, subtly setting up the rest of his journey. Wyald is the one who makes all of this apparent. It's not one thing, rather this huge spectrum of things he introduces just by being evil. From him beginning to chase the hawk, to him lifting Griffith and revealing the horrible truth, he was the one who got the ball rolling for the road to despair ahead. Even though Wyald is far from being a main villain of Berserk, he's equally essential to many of them, though every adaptation cuts him. It makes no sense. You cannot go from saving Griffith straight to the world-shattering event that is the eclipse. You need the build-up to make it even more impactful. While I will wholeheartedly agree Wyald was the definition of overboard at many points, I will be the first one to say the scene with Casca just never needed to happen. There were many moments that had already made him horrible, and there are many other ways they could have got Guts back up without doing that to Casca. I hate that moment so much. Regardless, Wyald is this monstrous because it's what the story needs at the time. He is all the worst things you can draw in one single creature, but he's all that and not even the main focus of the arc. Realizing that what Wyald was and everything he introduced was just the build-up for something even crazier is exactly what he was created for. To tell you that whatever comes next, everything after this section of the story is going to be even worse than the worst demon ever. With all said and done, how can you remove someone this important from every adaptation that's not the manga? I very much agree to censorship. I'm not saying show Wyald in his entirety, definitely tone him down, but don't completely erase him. Erasure of Wyald does nothing but really harm the story. A lot of the things Wyald does are very important, and you can easily show all these very important things and at the same time tone him down. You understand my point. While I'm personally not a big fan about how he's been completely disregarded, and so I'll ask you, do you think Wyald should have been banned from the Berserk anime?